All right, good evening and welcome to the How Can I Support My Child series this beautiful Friday evening. Are you there? Can you hear me? Can you see me? If you can hear and see me, you are welcome to the show. My name is Maribeth Chima, and we are here again to talk about parenting and answer yet another question that parents have asked. A parent asked, how or why is it important that I focus on my child's learning style? Many parents are beginning to hear more and more about learning styles and tailoring the children's learning to the way that the child loves to learn. And parents are wondering, what if I don't know their learning style? And what's the big deal about knowing their learning style? And yes, are we saying that children whose parents do not know their learning style or do not practice, helping them learn in that style, are we trying to say that these children will not do well? As a matter of fact, who cared about our learning styles anyway? And didn't we do well in school? All right, these are the things, these are the questions that come up when you're talking about a topic like this. And we are going to be looking at why it is important that your child's learning style is considered. Benjamin Franklin tell me, or said, tell me and I will forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. Let me say that again. Tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember. Involve me and I learn. What this is highlighting is the fact that when children are engaged in learning in a way that resonates with the child's learning style, in a way that resonates with what it is or how it is that that child learns or interprets, what they are being taught, it remains with the children. And that is when true learning really happens. It will shock you to know that so many times that we think that our children are learning, they are actually not learning. That you have dressed up and you have gone to school at the beginning of a day or a week, right? That you were in class every day for 5 days in a school week does not necessarily mean that you have learned. That your child goes to school every day does not necessarily mean that that child is learning or that child has learned anything. So, this is why it is important that you pay attention to the fact that your child is not just attending school, but that your child is learning. Give me a second. All right, there. All right, so we need to be sure, we need to make certain that our children are not just going to school, our children are not just schooling, but that our children are learning. Okay, it's not just even school. We have to ensure or we have to pay attention even in our homes and be sure that our children are not just watching us or are not just seeing what we do or are not just in that environment. We need to ensure that that environment is stimulating enough for our children to be learning. It is very important. As I said, learning and schooling are two different things. So children can actually go to school for an entire day, an entire week, and the child is learning little or nothing because we are not speaking in the language that the child understands. If you don't speak in the language that the child understands, then the child will not understand anything. And so the child will learn nothing. I have used these examples before and I'll use it again. Imagine you go into a typical class in China and you don't understand the language, or you find yourself in Japan, you don't understand the language, or even right here in Nigeria, you find yourself in a classroom where the teacher is teaching in Nupe language and you are Ogoja or you are from Igbo land. You don't understand anything of what they are teaching. How then? Give me a second. Sorry about this. The team is struggling with, what I don't know behind the scenes. Sorry about this. All right. So yes. All right. So yes. So you want to make sure that you are speaking the language that the child understands, or that the language that you're speaking is making any sense to the child. And I said it's not just the child, it's also you. I mean, you end up with this boss, and the boss speaks in a language that you do not understand. Hardly any project is going to happen. No project is going to happen effectively because you are both not speaking in the same language, or you cannot understand the language that this person is speaking to you. So this is part of why it is important that you recognize the language of learning that your child speaks. It's important that you understand that your teaching or your style of teaching resonates with your child. Okay? You have to make sure that your style of teaching resonates with the child's ability to learn, or resonates with how the child learns. All right. So the question is, how do I ensure, or how do I, right? No, the question is it even important that I know how my child learns? And is there just one particular way that my child can learn? All right. And I'm going to be giving you a number of reasons, or a number of reasons why it is important that you understand how your child learns. Now, is it just in one way that my child learns? No. Many times your child does not learn in just one way, but there's usually the dominant way that your child learns. And if you pay attention, you will recognize that there is a dominant way that your child learns. All right. Now, can my child be taught to learn in other ways? Absolutely. Right. The child can be taught to learn in other ways also, if the child is taught how to navigate. But there is that primary way that the child learns, and it's easier and it's better if you harness, right? It's easier and better if you recognize that way and you teach that child in that way. Because if you look at it, a lot of us were raised, right, and we were made to learn in a particular way. All right. Everybody was bunched as one, and it was one size fits all. That's how we were raised. I mean, that's how we learned. You know, if you go back and look at how, it was for you growing up in school or at home, you realize in school it was rote learning, right? It was rote learning. We all sat down there, and then the teacher goes, A, capital A, small a, capital A, small a, capital B, small b. So basically, we all did the same thing. We moved from chanting, and reading aloud. I mean, chanting, that's what we did. From chanting, we moved to copying, right? Everybody copied what was put on the board and all of that. We moved from copying, everybody wrote, right? We started with our slates, for those of you, who were born in the early 80s, right? And probably late 70s. All right, we wrote on slate. I wrote on slate. I don't know about you. I wrote on slate. All right. And then we wrote on slate for a bit, right? Before we went to proper school. I wrote on slate because I was going for lessons with someone around the corner in the, somewhere in the neighborhood. And we wrote on slate. All right. And then from there you go, and then you do the chanting. From the chanting, you start writing on paper with your pencils, and then you move, So we were made to do everything, everybody, whether or not it was good or not. And that's why you find some children back then that were termed olodo, some children back then that were termed lazy. Okay, but if you look closely, or if we were to go back, we realize that these were children who probably struggled with learning in that particular way. But because nobody cared about how you learned, it was assumed that if you are not doing what every other person is doing, then it simply means that you were being lazy or you were dumb, as it was at the time. Right. Now, a lot of children even suffered from, because they couldn't learn in a particular way. It then meant that some people had to struggle with the time that it took for learning to happen. All right. So some children would learn probably because that style that was used was was more of what resonated with them. And so learning was fast for them. And so the children who took more time to understand were generally just bunched as the ones who were not intelligent. No wonder we see a lot of cases of children who did so well in school while we were growing up. And then somewhere along the line, as we grew older, you realize they weren't that sharp anymore. And even more than that, we came out to the world, like generally, and you don't see those people who seemed like the strongest ones in class. You don't see them at the top of everything. You don't go to places and see them as the one like leading or the ones that are top in their establishments, and all of that. So I think a lot of it was, as a result of how we were taught to learn, or as a result of how we were forced to learn. So when you as a parent pays attention to how your child learns, you realize that you will be doing the child a great service, and you will be exposing the child to learning in a way that resonates with the child. It's the same thing in our homes, how we were all raised in the way the first child, the first child comes and boom, this is what works. I mean, this is what the parents did with the first child. And then the second, third, and fourth came, it's the same templates, the same way, the same everything. And of course, you now find that second child or that third child that is not like the first child, and that child becomes tag. I mean, you not tag that child. That child is profiled as the troublesome child. The child is profiled as the one that's giving the parents a lot of trouble, because that child is not like the first child, and what worked for the first child is not working for this child. It's because as parents, we've not bothered to stop to know the child that we have. We've not bothered to stop and listen or pay attention or be present enough to understand the child that we are raising. We are trying to fit all of them into one mold. We're trying to mold all of our children the same way. And so because we're doing that, when the child is different, one child is different, or that child is not easily malleable or not easily molded to what that first child is, because perhaps that one is the strong-willed child, or is the child that is so different that, changing them to what you want to see, right? Good day. Thank you, Ngozi. All right. So changing them to what you want is not as easy as probably changing the third one or the fourth one, and all of that. And so that's one that refused to conform is tagged the black sheep of the family. So more and more studies, have shown that this is what it is that happened in many of these cases, right? Where children were profiled, wrongly by parents, by their teachers, and all of that. I was reading something today, and I was reading about what's his name? Matthew Perry, is that his name? The one that died last year. One of the guys from the sitcom Friends, right? Chandler. All right. So I was reading something about Chandler, and it was said that when Chandler got his first picture on the cover of which magazine? New York Times or something like that. When he got his picture on the cover of his first magazine, of a big tab, right? That he sent a copy of it, of that, of the paper, right? He sent a copy of it to his teacher. That teacher that was always telling him that he was not going to go anywhere with faffing around, right? So obviously he was that jovial child. Obviously he was that child that just loved to, crack jokes and have fun and, whatever. And so he had that particular teacher that always told him he was not going to amount to anything if he thought that just, jumping around, and faffing around and playing up and down the place or trying to crack jokes and all of that, was what was all that life was about. So you see what it means. He simply said to the teacher, "You were wrong, right? You were so wrong about me. Now look at me now. Do you understand?" And this is the thing. We have so many cases of this. I remembered, when was that his name again? The Nigerian guy, the chess guy, the Nigerian guy that broke Guinness Book of Record, right? What's his name again? How can I forget his name? Anyway, I remembered him saying also at the time he wasn't doing so well in school, and his teacher, this same teachers that are supposed to be, I'm a teacher by the way, so don't come and think I'm dissing teachers here. But it's just that these things come up over and over again, where the same people who should motivate and encourage us and help us know that there is so much that is within us and so much that we can be, are the same ones who end up discouraging us so well. And then, as I'm saying it, I'm sure as parents, you'll be like, yeah, teachers can be. Do you know a lot of us as parents do the same thing, directly or indirectly? All of those times that you keep pointing the child to what you think the child should be doing when the child is doing what the child, what the child, what is in tandem with the child's style of learning and the child's interest, right? When the child is doing that and you keep telling the child off and you keep sending the child off and pushing them to do what you think should be or what you insist should be the way they should learn or the things that they should focus on, you're literally saying the same thing that these teachers have said to these young people when they were children, all right, to these children. You're literally saying the same thing to your child. So, but if we pay attention or we stop to pay attention to our children and pay attention to how they learn so that we can understand these things, then we realize that we will be pointing them, encouraging them, and guiding them to their superpowers, because right there in within their superpower, or as part of all of it, lies the child's purpose and lies the child's means to fulfillment in life. All right. So anything that our children would do or anything that our children are interested in, check and come closer, you would see that it gives them a sense of joy and a sense of fulfillment. And that's what life is all about. Life is all about doing something that gives you a sense of satisfaction and helps you to impact the world. It is in those things that they do well. It is in those things that they learn, right, that they do because they're able to learn easily. It's from there that they can impact the world, because that is where they can maximize their competence. That is where they become competent, because this is their easy. All right. So I'm going far now. I cannot talk for too long without pulling everybody into talking about purpose. All right. So no wonder in the mastermind circle, our peer mentorship and accountability group, we are so about our children, what they do, what they know how to do well, what they do, that is what they do, in an exceptional way, what they do with ease, and yet it comes out better than what the average person does. I always say to the children, what is that thing that you do so well that even you do not know that it's so well, yet people see it and they go like, oh, this is good. What is that thing that you do? And if there are 10 people or 20 people in your class who have done that same thing, yours still comes out looking, top notch, or still comes out looking so good, right, in the midst of so many people. And yes, you have done it with such little, with such little pressure. You've done it with a lot of ease, right? When you find those kind of things, then right there is your superpower. Okay. The next thing is the adults around want to pay attention so that we can point this child to that thing and help the child begin to build and hone skills around that thing, basically. And this is how they get a sense of satisfaction, because this comes really easy. They do it and they're happy. They do it and they feel fulfilled. They do it and they excel in it without trying too hard. All right. And it is through this that they become valuable, because this is the thing you do so well. You have value in that area. And of course, when you have value in that area, it means that the people who have challenges or the people who need solutions in that area have a go-to person in you. And this is it. This is how we actually raise children who become resourceful, productive, who understand their self self-worth, who understand the value that they carry. We shouldn't be raising children without making sure that they understand the place of value and how that value comes from within them. All right, so let's go straight into why it is important that you start paying attention to your child's learning style today. All right, so there are 5 basic learning styles, 4 actually, that we talk about. Their school of thought that have much more, but we'll just focus on the basic ones. All right, so one of them is kinesthetic. Kinesthetic learner means your learner who loves to move. This learner is always moving their legs, moving their hands, moving their eyes, moving their body. So this learner learns more when this learner is moving. So this learner is very tactile, he's hands-on. He wants to create, he wants to pull apart, he wants to put together, he wants to join things, he wants to move, he wants to dance, he wants to. So if you have that child that is constantly on the move, chances are that child will learn better when learning is done on the move. Do you understand? They will learn better when learning requires the movement of the hands, pulling and joining, the movement. This kind of child will learn better that way, or best that way. We have the ones that are visual learners. These ones have to see. These ones have to create picture of what they are learning in their head. These ones want to plot graphs in their head on how to navigate and get to where they are getting to. These ones have to keep creating pictures in their head. Okay, so visual is my least, right? For me, visual is my least type of learning style. Basically, is the least way that I learn. All right, so that's why you see maps. If you give me a map and you say to me, just use the map and go to where you're going to, there's going to be trouble, because I can't make too much sense of the map. I can't. So if I'm using Google, or what do you call it, if I'm using any of this, GPS or whatever, it got to be talking to me. All right, it has to be talking to me. It has to be saying turn left and turn right, jump up and jump down. I am very, very auditory. Okay, so that's the third learning style. They are the ones they just need to listen. These ones are sponges. All you need to say and they soak it in and all of that. One of my children is highly auditory, okay, even though he has other learning styles that he can learn. As I said, children can be taught. We can all learn in other ways too, but you realize that this is the dominant one, and so you want to use the dominant one. Basically, look at it this way: if it would take 10 minutes to get something, if it would take 5 minutes to get something, to understand something using your primary learning style, it probably would take 30 minutes or 1 hour to understand that thing using another learning style, right? That is not your primary. I mean, there's no statistics on this. So this is me just trying to use an analogy to help you understand this. I don't have any facts concerning that, but I know, but I have the fact. Studies have shown, of course, that when you learn in the way that you learn best, it simply means that the learning resonates with you. And so whatever you're learning resonates with you. And so, of course, learning is more effective when it resonates with you. That one is a fact, okay? Any day, anytime. All right, so let's go straight up. So number 1 is, if you know and you understand your child's learning style, it allows you to maximize the child's potential. So you're able to maximize the child's potential when you teach the child in a way that the child learns. Okay, you are able to make the best of that learning experience. You are able to meet the child. The learning curve is shorter when you are using the child's learning style. I just used an analogy and I said, if it ordinarily would take the child 5 minutes or 10 minutes to learn that thing, the simple fact that you are using, or the child is learning in the way that the child enjoys learning or loves to learn, means that you can achieve it in that time. But if you are not, all right, the child struggles, all right? The child struggles and learning takes a longer curve, all right? Number 2, it reduces frustration when the child knows when you're using what style the child learns with, okay? So if you're using the style, it reduces frustration. A lot of the times, if your child, let's use for instance, your child is a kinesthetic learner, meaning the child wants to move. The child wants to pull things together. The child wants to use manipulatives, right, to make sense of what it is that they are learning. All right, the child is the child that you want to bring the learning, right, to their everyday life. And you are not doing that. You're not helping the child create, I mean, you're not helping the child, touch, experience the learning by touching and creating, trying to create the concepts with their hands, trying to create the concepts with their body, trying to, make sense of what you are saying by pulling things together to see what the result of it. What will happen is the moment you keep your tactile or your kinesthetic child, the moment you keep them in one place, sitting down and listening to you, they get frustrated because their attention span is short, right? For that kind of learning. So usually this group of children have very short attention span when it comes to sitting and just listening to you. But the moment they are moving their body and they are doing stuff, then they can stay on that learning for much longer. So if you not keep this kind of child and force them to be in one place, what you're doing is you are frustrating that child. It's the same thing even in our homes. All right. So that child that likes to move, that likes to do stuff, that likes to pull things apart and likes to touch, and all of that. And then you say to the child, sit down in one place. Or you say to the child, sit down there and just listen to me and all of that. You see them restless because this is not who they are. All right, this is not who they are, and so they get frustrated. So if you teach or you allow children learn using their learning style, then you achieve more with them and you avoid them getting frustrated. All right. Number 3, it enhances self-confidence. When your child learns in a way that the child learns best, what it means is the child becomes a part of the learning. The child can easily become a part of the learning and even take the front stage in that learning. That's why you go to some school and they say our curriculum is child-led. The child is actually meant to be involved in their own learning. The child is supposed to be a full participant in their own learning. Now, when the child is able to participate fully in their learning and the child is able to discover things, figure out things, be a part of the learning, share their experiences, it makes sense and all of that, the child gets a sense of fulfillment and gets a sense of self-worth, a sense of accomplishment, a sense of competence, right? So when this happens, of course, the child becomes confident as a learner. So your child who is learning in the way that they like to learn simply means that they will participate more. And the more you participate in any project at all, the more confident you become. I mean, take for instance, you have been put, let's say you are a builder, an architect, or something like that, and you are put on a project. Let's say there's a major project like building a stadium, and all of that. And you are a part of, you are a part of that whole project and you participated fully. You probably did a drawing of that project. All right. There is a sense of pride that comes with being involved. In fact, when that monument stands and you pass every time, nobody can take that pride that you get from looking at that monument every time you pass and you say, oh, I did this part of this project. I know my husband is an architect and there are some projects that he did in Abuja, and the first time we met, right, every time we passed any of those projects, he would turn and he would say to me, I drew that, and all of that. I know the sense of pride, and that gives him. I know the sense of pride that it gives him just knowing that he was a part of that project and it stands because he was involved in it. So that's the same sense that it gives your child when your child is involved in the process. Your child is easily involved in the process when the child is learning in a way that the child can resonates with the child, right? The child is learning in a way that the child can relate to. He allows the child be fully participatory in that process and the child gets a sense of confidence from doing that. The child also becomes less overwhelmed. The child is not overwhelmed when the child is learning in the way that they understand. It is when you are forcing them to learn in a way that they don't understand that they become overwhelmed. For instance, our son is highly auditory, all right? I've given this example before. He had done a project, or he had been a part of a project he had been a part of a project that he had gone through a program during this last summer holiday, a financial program. And as part of that program, we needed to sit down, between me and his coach. His coach and I needed to sit down for him to put together a final plan, for some small project and all of that. And while we were having that session, his coach was talking. I had my pen and my paper and I was writing. And then I would turn and I would nudge him like, writing. Why are you not writing? He had his jotter in front of him. I said, by the time I finished, I had 2 pages. I turned, this boy had just a few lines, like 5 or 6 lines or something like that. And I'm like, what's going on? I have 2 pages. How will you understand? You don't know, you must write and everything. And he's like, I understand, mommy. And I'm like, okay, so write. Right? Because I still believe very strongly that no matter what kind of learner you are, learning to document is very key. Because as it is said, the shortest pencil is more reliable than the sharpest brain. So put it down somewhere and you will always remember or have something to go back to. So I said to him, okay, now that you already know this, all right, you can remember, right? All right, put it down somewhere, document it so that if there is a need, you have something to fall back to. And my dears, this boy sat down and by the time he was done, he had 3 pages he had filled just by listening. Okay, so now if I sit down there and while we're at it, I kept on, let's say I'm his teacher and then he's in the class and I'm teaching and I keep on coming to his desk and I'm shouting, will you write what I'm saying, write what I'm saying. I will probably get him to write because I'm saying write what I'm saying. But in that writing, he will probably lose the focus on how he learns. So he's not hearing properly because his attention is not focused on how he learns, which is typically to just sit down and listen, take 1 or 2 lines down, but listen like 80% of the time. Now I am here forcing him to write 80% of the time, and then at the end of the day, he doesn't get it. So what I would do to that child is I will make the child overwhelmed. All right. But when I understand how the child learns, then we will have a win-win situation, because now after he has finished writing, all I need to say to the child is, I would like to see your notes that you made from that class, so that I can, mark it or validate or something. And then that's it. If the child is able to produce it, then I know that, woo, that's it. The child got it anyway, but his own way. Do you understand? So that's it. Okay, it reduces overwhelm. Okay, we have, it's already time. I'm going to give you one more. All right, it also increases motivation. All right, 2, motivation and focus. It will increase motivation. See, when children are not learning in the language that they understand, they are not interested. They are amotivated. They are not motivated. All right? Because they do not understand, or you're not speaking in their language. We have said this over and over and over again, that an activity plus a sense of satisfaction is equal to motivation. So for motivation to happen, the learner or whoever it is that is doing something needs to enjoy or get some sense of satisfaction from what it is that they are doing. When there is a sense of satisfaction from what they are getting, what will happen is they will be motivated to do that thing more. Now they don't need you to force them anymore. They don't need you to drag them anymore. They don't need you to push them. Probably they will need you to remind them, because they are children, and yes, they may not remember everything. So they may need you to give them prompts. But you see, when it comes to showing up and being there and doing what they have to do, they will need you because they can motivate themselves. In fact, gradually, you will get to the point you don't have to remind them anymore because they are fully motivated. I mean, we see this with them when it comes to parties, when it comes to playing games, because these things, the games, the TV, and all of those things are things that they get a sense of satisfaction. Dopamine is released into their body. The feel-good hormone is released when they are doing these things. So it's easy. Now, do you know we can build our children up if we introduce them so early to these things we're talking about today? If we do this so early, you can put your child in a space where learning and doing the things that are productive gives them the same sense of satisfaction and release of the feel-good hormone in their body. That is the sense of satisfaction or fulfillment that we are talking about. So yes, the same way your child feels about playing a video game can be is the same way your child feels about reading a book, the same way your child feels about doing a project, is the same way your child feels about studying and all of that. You can do that, and it's all programming. And when you get your child into that system, and how you do it. This is why we are putting together the challenge, all right? The support your child for 30, 40 minutes, 45 minutes every day challenge, all right? We want to challenge you as a parent to stay in with your children for 2 straight weeks. Give them 45 minutes of undiluted attention with great activities that we will be sharing with you, all right, for you to introduce into your system of bonding and supporting your child to learn. We want you to challenge yourself. Do this with the child, and you will be amazed at the results. You see, consistency is a thing, all right? Consistency, anticipation, all right? So these are great ways to bring a sense of satisfaction. Anticipation, consistency, fun activity, right? And you will get your child motivated, of course, and of course, you would also get yourself in that space where you can show up for your child, even if you are a busy parent that doesn't have so much time. We want you to try this. You are busy, you are busy. All right, so we don't want to say to you, oh, you are so wrong, you will fail, or da 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 da, because you're not doing it. We're saying to you, what time do you have? Do you have 45 minutes? Can you put 45 minutes? So that you use 15 minutes of it to put together your activity and all of that. And for 30 minutes, you can stay in there. We want you to challenge yourself to do that for your child. Whether you are a father or a mother, whether you are in the same home or you live in 2 different cities, we want you to challenge yourself. We will give you the activities. We will help you tailor the activity to your child's learning style. And then we will go with this. And we are with you for 14 straight days. Let's do this. All right. So you're going to have the link and the flyer and all the details you need, right, by Monday to join us in this challenge. Please join. As many of you as possible, join. This is not about the fact that you don't know how to do stuff. We just want you to challenge yourself. Let's do this together, right? Take it as one of those challenges. Don't worry, it's not expensive. It's going to be, it's going to be just a commitment fee. Okay, it's a challenge, so we want you to commit yourself, but we want you to stay in there. Let's do this together and see the amazing change that this would do for our children. All right, transformation, it will be transformational, and it will help you bond so well. All right, so this is where we're going to pull the curtain or draw the curtain for the day, all right, and for the week. All right, so from next week, we're not going to have this show every week anymore or every day anymore. Yes, so we did the show for the whole of September, right? We started the show in the middle of August. All right, and we've done it all through. No, we've done this show for over 3 months or more, right before August. So we've done this show for over 3 months, every day doing this. All right, so it wasn't meant to be a permanent thing. So what we're going to do, we're going to still answer questions that parents ask us. So what we will do now is we'll bunch the questions together and we will make it a weekly show. All right, thank you, Kalista. So we'll bunch all of the questions that parents ask us, and we will make it a weekly show. All right, so in a month, we will take one question or related questions, and we will do a series for the entire month. So let's say we're talking about bullying. We will do a series for bullying for an entire month. For the entire month, we'll do the series on bullying, and we will go with bullying for the entire month. All right, so we will go to so different conversations based on what parents have asked us. We will bunch it together and we'll do it in 4 episodes. All right, and the show is going to be, we're going to put the show on Thursdays. So we'll do it every Thursday evening at 7 p.m. still. So every Thursday we will do it. So you will have the flyer for each series for the month at the beginning of the month. And then we'll go every Thursday throughout that month, dealing with these questions in different dimensions. So thank you very much for being a part of the show in the last 3 months, right? Thank you for staying on here with us and being a part of the show. The show is still on, but it's going to be a weekly show now. Thank you very much. So I will see you next week, Thursday at 7 p.m. But you will have the flyer on Monday so that you know when the show is and you can prepare, and we will send reminders for the show until we have the show on Thursday. Thank you very much for being with me. Thank you, Kalista Ngozi. Thank you, everyone who has joined and those who are catching the replay. Thank you for being here. If you have questions, ask us in the comment section. If you like to bring your child to work with us in the Mastermind Circle, a peer mentorship and accountability group, where all of these things we're talking about is wrapped in our curriculum, and we work with the children throughout the year, then the information is on your screen right now. Use that to join us in the Mastermind Circle. It's a robust community, an effective community, and a community where we guide your children and we hold them accountable. We hold them accountable to achieve the goals that they set for themselves. That's a beautiful thing about the Mastermind. So the Mastermind Circle is hands-on. All right, it's a foundation grant, and we understand that. We understand that saying, right, that I said in the beginning when I said, tell me and I will forget, teach me and I will remember, involve me and I will learn. So in the Mastermind, we involve the children because we know that that is how they learn. All right. Your daughter is 5. Okay, the Mastermind, the child has to be 6, or the child has to be at least 5 years and 8 months in December, sorry. 5 years and 8 months in December, so that the child can turn 6 at most in April, thereabouts. All right, so that's where we take. But if they are younger than that, we're not sure they can stay and withstand all it is. As I said, the Mastermind is very practical, it's very hands-on. We guide the children, but the children do their stuff by themselves because it's a foundation ground. And what we are doing is we're trying to raise the children to understand the role that they play in their own lives and to start taking initiative and directing themselves on their own. So we do this gradually, peacefully, calmly, supportively, but surely. It's such an amazing foundation ground. If you have children between 0 and 10, the Mastermind should be a beginner school for them where self-development is concerned. We graduate the children as soon when they turn 14. The cohorts that they turn 14, we do them a graduation and we send them to other teenage programs, right, where they can go. But when our children go to to other programs, they are outstanding because the foundation is already solid, from the Mastermind Circle. Thank you very much for joining me again. I will see you on Thursday. But we also have our weekly webinars on Monday at 1 p.m. You can also join us there. All right. If you have not subscribed to our YouTube channel, please don't go away without subscribing. Subscribe and click on the notification button. So every time we go live, you can be a part of the show. And share the link with your friends who have young children and preteens, even for parents who have toddlers. All right. November is a month for toddlers for us. We also work with toddler parents. All right. So parents of toddlers, rather. So November is a month for toddlers for us. We bring courses, we bring support for parents who have toddlers because we work with toddlers also at PTM. So thank you very much. Have a beautiful rest of the evening. And yes, enjoy your weekend. Thank God it's Friday. All right then. Thank you for joining me again and bye. Bye for now. Thank you. Bye.